Hello, this is Psych, and I'm going to do something a bit different for this video. This video is a graduation farewell for graduate students in a particular program, specifically those who are finishing a master's or PhD. But I think that many of you will find the contents of this video relevant and hopefully interesting. So if you're graduating in any capacity, I wish to say cheers to you and what you have accomplished thus far. Now that this chapter in your life is coming to a close, there's going to be many other opportunities that are, let's say, awaiting you. I'm going to use this opportunity to take a little bit of time to reflect upon these kinds of transitions in life and provide a last mini lecture, so to speak. And I'm going to try to keep this short, so I will summarize everything in three lessons. Lesson number one: wise people know what they don't know. If you leave here thinking that you know everything, then we have failed you as faculty members. If you leave here with an inflated ego or sense of self, then once again, we have failed you. If you leave here believing that the hardest part of your journey is over, then once again, and I'm sorry to say, that we have failed you. By the time you leave here, the knowledge you have obtained in terms of content may be a mile deep, but it is only an inch wide. In just about any field or discipline, what one finds is that there's so much more to know, and what we actually know is but a very small speck amongst the vastness of that which is arguably infinite. On your journey, you will continue to face challenges and be asked to solve problems that perhaps we have not yet conceived. You'll be asked to dive into the deep unknown, and you probably feel as though you have just learned to swim. Remember, the wise recognize what they don't know, and that those who speak the most usually have the most to learn. So, what is the most valuable skill that you have acquired? Well, it's not your knowledge of some theory, some measurement model, or some fancy, let's say, statistical technique. The most important skill that you have acquired is knowing how to know. In other words, you have moved beyond, let's say, a regurgitator of prior knowledge toward a creator of new knowledge. You have learned how to learn and how to produce knowledge. It is these skills that you will find yourself continually relying upon throughout the rest of your journey. Lesson number two: there must be chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. This quote comes from Nietzsche in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Zarathustra was basically this kind of prophet who, after reflection, decided to, in a sense, kind of prepare humankind for their next, let's say, phase in evolution. But this idea, the idea that there must be chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star, has always resonated with me as something that we should pay attention to. And I suppose that there are probably many lessons that we could take from this idea. But to me, it is a reminder that beauty and order can and often does emerge from that which is viewed as undesirable and perhaps chaotic. The difficulties, the challenges, struggles in life, these are not something to avoid, but instead, they are something we should fully embrace. They are vital to life. I think it is also a reminder that we should not take life too seriously. It is easy to become consumed with all of the problems in the world. It is easy to become, let's say, fixated with work, with schedules, with routines, and so forth. So be open to a little chaos. Remember, many of the greatest discoveries were accidental. Radioactivity, X rays, etc. All of these things were discovered, many things were discovered by weird accidents. So let go of fixed plans and concepts. Life is a dance, it is not a marathon. Lesson number 3: do your work and then step back. Heraclitus famously said that one never steps into the same river twice. Why? Because neither you or the river are the same. We live in a constant state of change. Nothing, at least so it seems, remains the same. The people that we closely work with, the culture in which we are immersed, and the knowledge that we have created all seem to change at a very rapid pace. So, how should we position ourselves in the midst of such change? Do your work and then step back. It is easy to become attached to your ideas or the knowledge that you have somehow, let's say, you've helped to create. But this is a mistake that stems from a false belief, the belief that you and your ideas or your creations are synonymous. These are not the same, and it is important to keep these things separate. I'm reminded of Leon Festinger, who was a psychologist that published the very first book on cognitive dissonance theory. After publishing this book, he never published a single thing relevant to this topic. Instead, he let his graduate students take over, and they went in directions that perhaps he could have never foreseen. When asked why he never published again in this area, he said that it was because he believed that everything in this book was in some sense almost perfect, and that by staying in the field, he would ultimately stop it from advancing. Festinger had the wisdom to step back from his own creation. It was only by doing so that his creation was able to take on a life of its own. So remember, do not become attached to your own ideas or your creations. Instead, do your work and then step back.